Hi, welcome to another episode of Coach Café. My name is Simon Lamarche. Today we're going to be talking about plyometrics. So why use plyometrics? What are they? So let's check it out. Okay, so before we start talking about plyometrics, we're going to do a little experiment that is going to get us to think about all the different aspects of the body that are involved when we're going to be doing plyometrics. So I'm going to get Angus here to do a jump squat. So he's going to go down, hold it for 5 seconds, and then he's going to jump high as he can and reach, and we'll see how high he can jump. Okay, so let's go down, hold it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and jump. All right, cool. Now I'm going to get him to do a counter movement jump where he's going to go up, vigorously down, vigorously up, and we'll see if he's able to jump higher doing this kind of motion. Okay, when you're ready, Angus. Okay, so he's able to go higher. Perfect. Now we're going to be going with the drop jump off a chair. Let's see if he can go higher by doing a drop jump off a chair. Okay, perfect. So what happened there? We saw that he jumped the highest when he did a counter movement jump, and he didn't jump as high when he did a squat, but he still jumped pretty high. And then he wasn't able to jump as high when he dropped down from the chair and went up. Why is that? Well, the reason why he wasn't able to jump as high when he did the squat is because he lost all of the energy that was stored in the elastic of the muscle and the tendon. So just for a reminder, if you want to show me your calf, so we can see that he has the calf muscle here, and over here he has the tendon. So the tendon, the Achilles tendon here is like an elastic. And so the energy that was stored in the tendons and in all the tendons, and ligaments got dissipated because there was too much time when he was at the bottom. And remember that tendons, they connect bone to muscle, muscle to bone. Okay, so it's kind of like an elastic connecting everything together. So when he went down, the energy got dissipated, so there was only the force that was made by the muscle going up. Whereas when he did a counter movement jump, he went down quickly. All the energy from going down was stored into the elastic that got stretched, so he was able to couple that with the energy of the muscles contracting up. Now, the thing that we need to know is that when he did the drop jump, he put a lot of force down. And in the tendons, we have something that's called the Golgi tendon apparatus, GTO for short. And its job is to protect the system. So if there's too much load through the system, it actually reduces the amount of force that the nervous system will allow to output. And this is just a protection factor. In his muscles, though, he has something called a muscle spindle. And a muscle spindle does the opposite. When it feels tension, it helps to contract the muscle. So when we're thinking about plyometrics, we're trying to inhibit the effect of the GTO because we don't want to have muscle inhibition. I don't know if you've ever done bounding and you felt like your knee kind of gave out underneath you when you were doing, like big bounding. The reason for that is the GTO got too activated and inhibited the movement. So we want to train the body by exposure so that it doesn't do that, so that we can have more power. Okay, but now, before we get going any further, let's talk about what are plyometrics. So Angus, can you show us a nice example over these hurdles of what are plyometrics? So we can see that when Angus is jumping here, he has a very short contact time. So we saw that the ground contact time was very short, and it's like he was bouncing off the ground. Those are plyometrics. Now, can you show us an example of what not to do when trying to do plyometrics? Yeah. So we can see here that he's jumping, but he has a long contact time on the ground. So those are not plyometrics. That's jump training, which is good, but it's just different. So if we're talking plyometrics, there needs to be that bouncy action. Okay? So we saw that when you're doing plyometrics, you use a combination of the tendons and of the muscle, and we're training the tendon to be able to store more energy. So we're also helping it to become stiffer, because when we pull on the tendon, when we have a jerking action through the tendon, it stimulates it to become stiffer so that it can actually harness more energy and it can release it on our way up. Okay? So that's one reason why to do plyometrics. Another reason why to do plyometrics is because we are trying to develop force rapidly. So think about sprinting, think about jumping. Your window of time to develop force, the faster you go, is shorter and shorter. So your ability to develop force rapidly is very important, and plyometrics help with that. What we need to remember though, is that we need to have like the right vector, we need to have the right angle so that it translates to the activity, okay? But now, how do we progress? How do we start plyometrics? Well, we should start plyometrics with like learning basic landing mechanics, because we want to make sure that we can land appropriately. So I don't recommend using a chair, but just for the demonstration's sake, Angus, can you stand on the chair and show us good landing mechanics, like good motorcycle landing? Awesome. So if you go back in the motorcycle pause, I just want to point a couple of things out. So we can see that he landed heel to whole foot. He didn't land on his toes that are unstable looking at the ground. He landed heel to whole foot looking ahead. We can see that his knees are over his toes and he had his arms out. So that's a good landing position. So always start with the landing position for safety. Second, we're going to teach the athletes how to produce force, but without having the big landing impacts. So one thing we could do, I don't recommend doing this on a chair, I recommend doing it on a box, but just for demonstration's sake, can you jump on the chair for us? So see, now there's not the load of the landing because he's landing onto something. You can step down, thanks man. But we can see that he's developing high force output. So this is a good way to start plyometrics. They're not plyometrics, but it's a good way to start. So how would we start true plyometrics? Well, the body needs time to adapt, and if we go too intense, we can actually injure ourselves quite a bit. So it's important to develop the volume or build volume very progressively, but while keeping the intensity low. So examples of that are like rope skipping, and you're trying to rope skip for longer over periods of weeks. You want to make sure though too that you have varied in your plyometrics and that you vary the direction. So for instance, you could use a drill like this. So I guess what I'll get you to do is to face forward, but you're going to jump sideways, forward, sideways, backwards, and then you're going to do it reverse. So that's going to be about 8 jumps, okay? Try to be really fast off the ground. Try to bounce as much as you can. All right, cool. So we can see here there's many different directions. It's low intensity, but we could do multiple sets of this to build some more volume, okay? As the athlete progresses and reaches a good volume and we feel like the body adapted, then we can reduce the volume and we can up the intensity. We can be doing hurdles like Angus did before that are taller, so there's going to be more stress. We could be doing drop jumps like we death jumps, sorry, like we saw him do here, where he dropped off the chair and tried to reach as high as he could. Or we could also put like different vectors or different directions. So for instance, you could jump over, do a slide sideways. Another example is translating force from one direction to the other. So for instance, Angus, could you show us like a broad jump to a vertical, broad jump to vertical? Yeah. So here's jumping long, high, long, high. And one of the reasons to do so is, so for instance, like if you're thinking basketball, a layup or anything like that, you're running into it and then you're trying to go vertical. You could also do so when you're building your volume, so doing small jumps forward and up. So they're less intense, but you can build volume for resiliency. So little things to think about. But lastly, plyometrics are really good because you have the braking phase of the contraction, the isometric phase, and the concentric phase, but under very, very short time. So you won't build too much hypertrophy, but you'll gain like a lot of power if you want, or the ability to develop force rapidly, which can be very useful for different sports. Speaking of sport, you can also make them specific. So say you're a speed skater or a cross-country skier, you could be on your skis or on your skate, you could jump and push, and that would be like a form of plyometrics. That would be sport specific because it would be similar angles, similar velocity, and it would help you develop like more force rapidly in your sport. So I hope there's some food for thought there for everyone, and that these are little things that you can incorporate. Please just make sure to do so safely because it can be very intense, and if your young athletes don't do like rope skipping or games like La Marelle, if they haven't done much of this, they can have some injuries. So progress slowly, but this is a very powerful and potent tool that you can use in your training. Thank you so much. Agnes, can you sign us off?
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Awesome, thank you. So in conclusion, plyometrics To have a plyometric action, it needs to be a bounce with a very short ground contact time. You want to be utilizing both the tendons like an elastic and the muscle. Plyometrics are not like a slow jump. It really has to be a bounce with a short ground contact time because you want to be utilizing the tendon. Plyometrics, they're going to be really good to be able to inhibit the GTO, which is going to inhibit your muscle contraction so that you can actually apply more force without having that inhibition. You're going to be utilizing or better coordinate the muscle spindles to be able to produce more force. You're going to be able to produce more force more rapidly. You're going to be able to increase the stiffness of the tendons. And you can start with just working on good landing mechanics, rapid force applications, so you can start with jump training before plyometrics. And then you want to start with like lower intensity, higher volume, say rope skipping. And then in time, nice and slowly, you can transition to more intense plyometrics. But again, you have to make sure that it's a bounce and not a jump. But the volume will come back down. And plyometrics are great because there's a braking action, so an eccentric, an isometric, and a concentric. So you have all three types of movement. And you can make them sport specific. So you have the right vector and everything. So say you're a cross-country skier, you could do plyometrics cross-country skiing, which will help you with better force application in the right vector with the right movements. Hope this helps. Hope this stimulates how you can organize your practice and how you can utilize this tool to have more force, rapid force application in your sport. Follow us. If you like this, please like and subscribe. It really helps to keep us going. Write any comments, anything you'd like to hear more about. And please look out for our next episode. See you next time.